Hi folks, Florida Man here. Today I'm bringing you one perspective on a game I played with several players I've now had a few interactions with. The game was called Perigord, and it was played on Backstabber. What follows is the German perspective.
Hey. Hello, Wes.
Thank you for participating in this after-action report. So, after Talleyrand, I, along with some of the people from Talleyrand and you, start a new game. It's called Perigord. We play on Backstabber, just like Talleyrand. And for the audience, which country were you?
I was Germany.
Germany. And I was France. So, already from the very beginning of the game, you and I are naturally going to have a certain amount of interaction. How would you?
Yeah.
How would you characterize our early interactions?
I thought you and I hit it off pretty well in the beginning. We both were pretty straightforward about being able to try to work together, and quickly came up with a plan where you would make an attempt for English Channel and in return, so that would be part of an FG alliance to work against England. Germany's moves are naturally a bit more ambiguous against England when it comes to that. So you were taking a fair bit of upfront risk in terms of doing that. Yeah, I think we had an agreement where you would get Belgium, or I would be willing to support you into Belgium if you made a move to English, and that we would go from there.
Yeah, the way I remember it being was that I think you wanted to eventually get Belgium, but you agreed to lend it to me.
Yeah, I think, I generally the way I see it when splitting up England is that, between the English islands and Belgium, you have 4 centers. So it makes sense to do 2 and 2. And generally in the long run, it feels Germany has a better position if they have Belgium out of that. But yeah, it was early in the game, and I don't like to worry too much about who has which centers if the relationship is going well.
I think that's fair, yeah. So you decided to work with me over England. I know at least one other player was wondering why you picked me over England. So do you have any thoughts you want to share about that?
I thought so. The English player I liked as well in terms of communication. It wasn't anything personal there. There's 2 things I think that played into that. I'm not always a fan of EG alliances because I find it very hard to execute a successful stab in the mid game to break that alliance, because Germany builds armies, England builds fleets, and it's very hard to do the other without the other kind of telegraphing what you're doing. That's not to say it can't be done, and also it's not to say that sometimes you don't really want to be thinking about the stab in 1901. But that already has a little bit of a part of what I'm thinking there. And the other was that I was in discussions with Italy and Austria, who were wanting to do a central triple. And in my view, when doing a central triple, it's best to get rid of the corner powers first. And because they're very hard to get rid of in the mid game, you're trying to work out from the center. So I already had a bit of a leaning towards working with France in that respect, and then the diplomacy and the relationship then bore it out. You were easy to work with and easy to communicate with. So
I did make this big anti-English opening for you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, once you do that, it's pretty. Yeah, I mean, right from right there, you're showing some high level of commitment, and the back and forth in terms of the diplomacy was really good, and so I was feeling more and more comfortable as we went along. I think it was not what Italy wanted. I think both Italy and Austria wanted me to work with England instead, and so they were a bit upset when I ended up choosing to work with you over working with England as part of the Central Triple. Well, and you might recall too, so that originally we had planned to bounce in Burgundy, and that was also part of an agreement with Italy that I would move to Burgundy. But I was still kind of preferring to work with you overall. So when you asked for a DMZ, and I said, yeah, for sure, no problem.
I think I even told you that I had received intelligence basically that Italy was moving to Piedmont.
You did, and so this is a question I had for you. So how did you figure this out? So this was a coordinated English to England to the Channel, Italy to Piedmont, and my moving to Burgundy was supposed to be part of that too.
So I think England, if I remember right, England was trying to be clever and to turn me against you, and so said that you were organizing an alliance against me and getting Italy to move to Piedmont, something like that. And I think that after England let the cat out of the bag, I just confronted Italy, and Italy admitted it without any real difficulty.
So the one person you ended up working with is the one person that denied that had ever been part of the plan all along.
I mean, if it looks like if Italy told me that, I think Italy told me that England was the one who convinced them to, so or something like that, and like so it ended up seeming like you were the most viable person to work with, even if I hadn't already preferred working with you, which I do as France. I think I prefer working with Germany over England. Yeah. Because in my view, it's much easier to betray Germany in the middle and late game for France than it would be to betray England. And,
some foreshadowing.
It could be. We shall see. We shall see. So, going to fall, we see that you make your move to Holland, and you capture Denmark naturally. You go to Skagerrak, and another question from the group. People were wondering why you opted to not bounce Russia out of Sweden, given that you were doing an FG. I'm not sure that I consider that an essential part of an FG. I think that's more like an essential part of an EG, perhaps.
Yeah, that's sort of my view too. I was already strongly leaning towards working with you. So in terms of the FG working, there's nothing that really requires me to do that and bounce Russia out.
I think at this point there was also probably no reason to go poking Russia in the eye.
I was rather, yeah, because from the Turkish opening in the spring, you have an army in Armenia. You have so it's pretty clear that Russia's not going to likely get Romania in the fall, and given that, if I'm looking at a potential 6-build Russia, then maybe I'm considering bouncing in Sweden, and maybe I'm even telling Russia that I'm probably going to bounce them in Sweden and let them have it in O2. But given that they weren't going to get into Romania, and given that I was pretty sure that you and I were going to be working together against England, why make an enemy in the north and maybe instead have a friend in the north who can help, work against England up there?
It makes a lot of sense. That's the sea lion.
Yeah,
that's how it works. I mean, I personally, as any player that's not Russia or Germany, I always like for Germany to bounce Russia just because it's convenient to keep Russia weak. But as France here, I don't even think it would really have been in my interests, looking back, for you to have done that, because Russia is a threat to England and England's ability to hold Norway after this season.
Yeah.
Anything else about this season you want to highlight that really sticks out to you? I mean,
the bounce in Trieste for what was being sold to me, and what I think is, well, it'll be interesting to hear from Austria and Italy really how this AI worked. But it seems like there was a strong AI relationship throughout much of the game. But this just destroys any tempo that the AI has in moving against Turkey, which has got to be one of the goals of an AI.
Yeah, I feel like this is a real tactical or even a strategic error.
Yeah.
And what's strange about it is it feels coordinated because it's also coupled with Italy convoying to Tunis, which is an anti-Turkey move.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
And you'll see it. I think you'll see it in the O2 moves as well, about how it just kind of makes a mess of the situation in the Balkans and the whole in Austria's position as a whole. But we'll get to that. But
I guess the question is creating confusion for your enemies worth the loss of this much momentum and giving Turkey Greece for right now?
Yeah, I think if this is part of an AT, then okay, then maybe I can see something like this in some scenario. But even this, I'm not sure is the best thing to do for an AT. You'd probably rather guarantee Romania,
Yeah.
and not worry. Just move the fleet to Greece, and if it bounces Italy, whatever. But you're probably getting in.
Yeah, 90% of the time when you go for Greece as Austria, Italy's not going to be the one to bounce you, if anyone.
Yeah.
Like, Turkey will bounce you.
Yeah, I had pitched, I mean, in terms of the central triple, I had pitched pretty strongly that Austria should allow Venice to Trieste and that Ionian should move forward into Aegean. Especially given that the Turkish fleet is in Ankh, it can't cover Aegean, you're free to move in there. And so if you're working in AI, I think, support Albania to Greece, let Italy borrow Trieste, move the fleet forward. Don't even bother with the convoy to Tunis. You can pick up Tunis later. Italy will get the build, put the fleet in Naples, but you already have the fleet in Aegean. And
it's very sound. Yeah.
It's a fast way to move it forward. But I think that this you can even choose not to do that, and then still be able to move forward. But this just was a bit is really a bit confusing to me for an AI trying to pull something off. But so I'll be curious to know what the status of the negotiations was at that point. This is still pretty early in the game, of course. So
it'll be good to hear from them. Yeah. So we're just making pretty standard moves over here in the west. I'll move to the winter, and you and I coordinate builds, I believe, and we each build one fleet and one army.
Yeah, I was pushing you pretty hard for 2 fleets, I think, and you fairly enough pushed back and said that would probably stoke a conflict with Italy and Austria that you didn't want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is fair enough.
I'll leave myself wide open for a stab, which I thought was the
yeah, fair enough.
We see England also builds an army here, which I think is actually a decent choice because he knows he's about to be defending his island. And elsewhere, we have some pretty standard build choices. Russia making a build that's designed to not tick off England and to be most useful against the southern foes that appear to be pounding at his doors, because Turkey is in Armenia and Black Sea right now, while the conflict with Austria has been more obvious in terms of the bounces. So going to spring, we see...
One quick thing though, that the Turkish build of the fleet in Smyrna is also quite telling of the diplomatic situation. There's no AT going on, or it seems like there wouldn't be, because otherwise you would much prefer to have something in con to start to bring things up, I would think. But,
well, no, I don't know. I think actually there could have been an AT here, and the Smyrna fleet build could still have been a good move if you were planning to maybe let Austria into Greece and move Greece up through Bulgaria.
That's true. Then why did you go to Greece to begin with? But yeah, anyway. So
that's a good point. Yeah, the only reason would be to disguise the alliance then, at that point. And the fact that because Austria was bouncing Italy and Trieste, that it's impossible for Austria to also take Greece and Serbia.
Yeah.
So maybe there could have been a reason, but that's not what we're going to see anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So in the spring, you and I are beginning to make our anti-English moves. What's going on there with you in Russia?
Yeah, so this was where up to this point I'd been basically playing every side in terms of the diplomacy. And so even to this point, England probably is not feeling so great about me, but we're still talking, we're still coordinating, and I'm offering, support from SCAD for the army to get into, or for the fleet to go into Norway. And so the English move of the army to Finland and the fleet from north into Norway is all something I know about. And yeah, this was basically an agreement at this point with Russia on supporting, basically doing a swap. I'll support you into Norway and I'll backfill into Sweden. And then we're in good shape. You can bring up the army to make sure that you support everything as well. And we get you stay even, but you have one less enemy in the north, and I get Sweden. So that sounds like a good deal to me.
I think that's a very favorable deal for you, in theory. I mean, we shall see how it actually works out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good because England is losing ground on all fronts from the south, and you're also moving to Helgoland, and losing Norway is a big deal. So England's in a little spot of trouble here.
Yeah. Losing English Channel to you, of course. So yeah, it's this is definitely where England's position really starts to fall apart. So.
Yes. England is very annoyed at you, by the way, for stabbing him, and like that's something that is clear. I believe I continue talking to England a bit back and forth, just chit chat, not just conversation, but nothing major.
Yeah.
But I think that much more than me attacking England resented you attacking because of the fact that England had a plan to work with you.
That's not surprising to me at all. So England has every right to be annoyed with me at this point.
Very, very generous of you. Elsewhere, you see that I'm doing another bounce with Italy. This time it is coordinated. And this is going to be kind of a pattern with Italy, demanding that I make coordinated bounces or move units in a way that is really pretty suboptimal for me in order to appease other people, I guess, according to Italy. And this is why I end up pretty annoyed with Italy as the game proceeds. So I think if the game could have continued, or if the game had continued beyond the point where it ends, I think my wrath would have been really vented on Italy as much as possible. But that's
yeah. I'm trying to recall because I'm clearly benefiting from this, but because that army's not moving north to potentially mess with me any faster. I don't believe I asked Italy to do this, but I think that I was happy enough with Italy for continuing to do this, of course. So
I think Italy might have been worried about me.
Yeah.
Because I think it was really just Italy trying to keep me from being too effective or too strong too quickly. And that's just the small thing that Italy could do, because my understanding is that Italy is one of the players who actually recognized me really quickly.
Okay.
So that might have been part of it. But anything else interesting about this season you'd like to mention for the viewing audience?
Yeah, I mean, you see the theme, which is it's unfair because they're not here to defend themselves, but the supported move into Greece with the Austrian fleet now stuck in Albania is also feels a bit suboptimal for the AI, but it's a consequence of the moves they've done previously. And
I think it's like this time it's not a particularly bad move. It's you were going to end up with one fleet in Greece and one in the Ionian in any case. The question was whether you'd have a fleet stuck in Albania or Naples.
Yeah, the way you could imagine it, but it's not guaranteed, so I can understand doing it, would be moving Ionian to Eastern Med. Because it's a spring turn, you don't need to take Greece for the center in the spring. You'll still have the fleets there in position to be able to take it in the fall. So, but you can always get bounced out of East Med. So there's this is the guaranteed way to make some movements at least.
That's true. And they might have been worried that Turkey would do something to reinforce Greece, maybe move into Bulgaria and Aegean, which, so if they hadn't done a supported attack on Greece this season, then maybe they thought that could be a problem. But yeah, I don't think these are the best moves possible.
Yeah. Well, there's not a supported, the fleet, and I guess you could convoy over to Bulgaria would be the way to do it, to have that support. But yeah,
it is an interesting set of choices Turkey makes as well. I think Turkey is simultaneously moving with support from Greece into Bulgaria, which seems to be in recognition of the fact that Turkey can't be sure of getting into Bulgaria otherwise. So Turkey is aware that Austria is hostile, but at the same time, Turkey is also keeping an army in Armenia.
Yeah,
which is like a good way of making sure Russia will stay hostile.
exactly.
And Turkey also moves into the Aegean, which is a good way of making sure Italy will be worried about him.
I think in my negotiations with Turkey, it was fairly clear that Turkey had no friends, which is partly with his own doing with the opening. That's a way to make an enemy with Russia very quickly. And the fact that I think it seemed that Italy had zero interest in working with Turkey in any respect throughout the game, and so that there was just no way that this AI was going to break up. So.
That's always going to be a problem when there's a player who's committed to not working with you probably just because of the particular power it is. Because I think that having an IT alliance is also kind of a bad idea for Italy usually. But in that case, Turkey really needed to quickly repair relations with Russia right now. Like before any moves happen in spring, right now, get out of Armenia and we'll be friends.
Yeah. I agree. I think that would have been a strong way to try to do that for sure.
Okay, and going to the fall.
Yes, the fall.
Hey, more progress is happening against England, at least.
There's some progress happening against England, and a little bit of shenanigans up in Scandinavia.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So this was. This made me not happy with Russia, who decided to work with England here. England very effectively expressing their frustration with me from the stab of the previous turn. And this is probably one of my biggest regrets of the game. Even after I stab somebody, I'm always willing to talk and to negotiate. I don't shy away from it or don't do that. But I did not talk to England that much. I didn't want to push on trying to talk too much in case some players don't respond very well to that if you've stabbed them and then you just try to talk them up a bunch right afterwards. Later on, establishing a bit more of a rapport with England, it's pretty clear that if I had communicated more with them in this fall 02 term, that maybe there would have been some way to salvage some piece of relationship. But maybe not. This might have always been happening anyway. So it's
what might have been.
What might have been, exactly. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, other than losing, not getting Sweden in the end, and Russia now having a stranglehold on all of Scandinavia, it's a pretty effective turn for us in the FG and making good progress against England.
If you look at the objective of the FG alliance as bringing England down, England's down to home centers. England is no longer in control of the English Channel, the North Sea, or the Irish Sea, and we are in all of those places.
That's right.
This is a very bad time for England.
Yeah.
Somebody was wondering why you trusted Russia in the north.
In this turn,
Yeah.
I just helped them into Norway, so why wouldn't I be trusting them here? I mean, my read of the board here was that Russia and I had been communicating okay. I'd chosen to work with Russia over England, and I wasn't posing any threat to Russia long term. Russia should have had more problems in the south. So with Austria, that's clearly working against them, with a Turkey that has an army sitting in Armenia. So I'm not expecting a stab from Russia here, because Russia's making an enemy that I feel like they don't need to make. But I mean, and just for a dot. So
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel as if, on the one hand, this is taking a risk by making you a probable future enemy for a single dot. On the other hand, by getting that extra dot, Russia gets 2 builds instead of 1, which might make Russia secure against any possibility of retaliation, and it certainly makes Russia stronger on paper. So it's interesting. At the time, I was thinking, is this a good decision by Russia? I'm not really sure. In retrospect, maybe it was.
Yeah, I think it did. It's as you say. I mean, it's only the single center in the north, but now their position in the north is very strong. I mean, there's no fleet. I don't have a fleet that can get into Baltic.
Yeah.
So there's not. You know, it's going to be a while before any, you know, imminent danger comes to Russia in the north. I can be annoying, but I can't really do a lot. And in the south, yeah, they're picking up Romania. You know, they've just supported Turkey into Serbia now. That army in Armenia is now going back to Ankara. So in that view, Russia could have seen it as, now I have a, you know, Turkey on side, and so I can take this risk and solidify my position. I wouldn't say that Russia made a mistake here. I don't think I would make the same call. And that's why I trusted them, is because I wouldn't have done this. Almost certainly wouldn't have done this. But yeah, it's hard to argue that it's a bad move for Russia.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, going to the build phase, I should say. We see you get another army, even though you know, we just mentioned that you might have wanted to go for the Baltic. I get a third fleet, and I think you were actually expressing your worry to me that if I built another army, you thought I would stab you, if I remember right here.
Yeah, I think I was pretty clear that I wanted to see another fleet, especially because I now have this problem with Russia back behind me, and so having to try to figure out how to deal with this is going to be a problem.
Yeah,
and that's part of the reason too of putting the army down for me. One, it's a signal to you that, you know, I have an army here, so don't be thinking about it. I'm hoping you're not thinking about it. And the other is, you know, I have this Russian army sitting in Warsaw, so if I put a fleet down in Berlin, you know, it's just welcoming Russia to be able to walk that army over into Munich.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I think when you did this, I simultaneously thought, I know it's probably necessary to defend against Russia, but I also don't like having that army again there right next to Burgundy. Why couldn't you have built an army in Berlin? And that would have been just as useful against Russia. And so this is probably, like, this isn't when I decide to stab you, but this is like one of the little factors that weighed on me as far as that goes. Interestingly, Russia builds an army in St. Pete and not a fleet in North or South Coast, which, you know, we both know that can take him nowhere. So
yeah,
probably a mistake, I think.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear what they were thinking with respect to this army and why they felt an army here was the right call.
But, yeah. Well, let's go to any other interesting builds?
I mean, yeah, we have another fleet from Turkey. That's going to help against, you know, the Italian fleet in the Aegean, of course. And then another fleet from Italy and Naples. So that's.
I don't think Turkey's in a great position, but I think naval strength is all Turkey can rely on, given that Italy is a committed enemy. So Turkey's doing what he can. Turkey's position is not good, in my opinion, here, because having Serbia it's sort of surrounded by enemy units. That's not something that's likely to hold in place, and Turkey can't even really effectively defend Bulgaria without devoting all of the neighboring units to it, because it's already in the Aegean Sea and Greece. So
yeah, I mean, if Turkey, you know, if Turkey has that army in Ink, if that's an army sitting in Bulgaria instead, I'm loving Turkey's position. This is definitely a position, especially now that you've just had some breakthrough in working with Russia, and Russia is also very big. So I think, you know, that I think would be great. But yeah, as it is with that fleet there, you know, Serbia is just hanging. So
yeah. Looking toward the spring, we see the beginnings of me having some freedom of movement, which is nice, because Italy's no longer messing around, bouncing me in Piedmont. That'll come back later, of course, but now I can move into Gascony. So Marseille could be filled free for a future fleet build, perhaps. And also, I have the ability to defend Paris in the event that you move to Burgundy right then. So that was actually the reason for that. I don't know if you recognized it at the time.
The move to Gascony. Yeah, yeah. I think I understood that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I much prefer you there than in Burgundy. So
yes, this is a purely defensive move.
Yeah.
Portugal to Spain is also sort of defensive, but it's also, I am in readiness.
That's right.
For a fight now, with you more so than with Italy. So
yeah. No, this is a great set of positioning moves for you. Now you fleets in Irish and North Atlantic. You don't have there's England is just stuck on the island at this point, and I'm moving away from you even more. So,
well, yeah, you're trying to. I mean, Russia bounced one of those moves, or you'd be your home centers would all be vacant.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're moving away from me. You take Norway, which is kind of it's kind of humorous, really. You and Russia going back and forth in Norway, and I think I probably would have preferred that we make more determined moves against England at this time, but I understand your necessity to retaliate against Russia. And also, I don't mind that you're vacating Holland. Anything about this season that stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely potentially an overreaction to what to Russia's move against me in Scandinavia, but I felt that it was justified, and I figured it would work. I didn't think anybody would see. I didn't think that Russia would see this coming and think that they needed to support, that they would need to support Norway to hold there with St. Pete. So I figured that army was probably going to be doing something else, and so this felt like an effective move for me too. Also, to this point, I had been hearing constantly from the AI that we were still having our central triple talks. They were very upset with me that I had been doing nothing against Russia, that I'd let Russia into Sweden, that I had been foolish to let Russia, take over Scandinavia. And so part of my thinking here too is, one, Russia does seem like a threat here. I don't want Russia to be growing uncontrollably. And I'm not getting a lot in Scandinavia with something like this. I can hang on to Norway, but I'm tying down a lot of Russian troops. And so if the guys in the south are able to make some progress, there's Russia's trying to defend those 3 dots with 3 armies, and so it's not so efficient for him.
And I think you have good reasons for what you do. Someone was wondering, why did you trust me enough to do this kind of thing?
Yeah, that's clearly the downside here. Up to this point, our relationship had been very good. We've been communicating very well, and there's still gains to be made against England. And so at least I knew you weren't going to stab for Holland here in the spring. So, I mean, that you can tell me if it crossed your mind, but that seemed very unlikely. And I still have the fleet in north to cover Holland in the fall. So it can be used for that.
That is a good point. Those are good reasons. I have another question. You'll probably guess who this one's from. Someone was wondering, and this pertains to earlier, but after you gave France Belgium, why did you suggest a Western triple that you knew was fake? The questioner thinks it gives France all of the advantage, whereas you could have just told this questioner that they should attack France so that they would be more vulnerable to your attack.
That's maybe fair enough. But I was working in the FG. I trusted you. Having you be in Belgium for the moment is okay. It's not. It doesn't. it means I have to always be watching my back a little bit, but it doesn't seem like the end of the world to me here, and so yeah, I don't know. That might have been a bad call from my end, but it's it felt like it got what I needed in terms of getting England to make moves that I knew would be able to stab on. So
yeah. England's moves were going to be of limited effectiveness in any case. So I will say I do tend to favor not bothering to lie to people when it's obvious that I'm attacking them, because I know that at the end of the season that they'll just reaffirm that I'm still attacking them, and then they won't take me seriously if I need to trick them later.
Yeah, but at that time when there was the Western Triple proposed, I was not attacking England. So it was still in an effort to kind of do some dissuasion and to try to keep England on side to some extent, to have them be making moves that I'd be able to work against them. But
it is interesting. I feel like this is another thing that probably ticked England off, which you can probably tell from the fact that was one of the questions England asked.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, and that's a fair thing to say, that might have been a problem of my game here, is that I unnecessarily ticked England off, and it made for it made for not having a friend at all, or not having somebody who would do anything for me at all when that would have been useful.
Yeah. Well, going to the fall.
Speaking of ticking England off,
we see in the fall that England does let you into Edinburgh. It doesn't do anything to bounce you. England defends against me. All of England's moves are very much defensive toward me, and I just walk into Holland. My army is just taking a little stroll there, and just getting some air. I'm sure you understand, and will not take offense at me dotting you here.
Yeah, So England clearly thinks I'm going to cover Holland, which is of course what I'm telling England I'm going to do, and it's something I went back and forth on quite a bit. But in the end, I felt I trusted you enough that you wouldn't make the move on Holland, and then my move to Eddie would, and I was fairly certain that would work, and so what I'm hoping for is to just go up a build, bring England down a notch, and then you and I can finish England up. And I thought, in worst case scenario, I move to Eddie and you move to Holland, as you did. My position is not good, but I come back to you and say, okay, I understand. You were frustrated. We weren't making lots of quick progress on England. I've just taken a center off of England. So, let's get this back on track. Finish England off. You should back out and let's go.
It's not a bad argument either. It's at this point that I should give you another English question. England was wondering why you didn't stab me at this point, which I think is what England was expecting you to do, at least based on the question.
I don't have a stab on you here. The only thing I can do is cover Holland, I think. I suppose I can move to Burgundy as well, which, looking at the board, you can say, yeah, of course, I should have covered Holland and moved to Burgundy. That would have clearly been better moves for Germany in terms of a defensive position. But I'm not getting any growth from that. So the only reasons I would do those moves are because I think you're going to attack me, which I clearly did not think you would. So, because if I end up in Burgundy and you haven't moved to Burgundy, that's hard to explain to you.
Awkward conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and I'm very proud. Then that was good diplomacy on my part, making you believe I wouldn't attack you. And honestly, this attack right here, it's a very weak attack on my part, a very weak stab. That I think you're correct. It could have been walked back, and we could have gone back to business as usual. And one of the questions from a different player is why I stabbed you at this point when England was not out. And to that, my response is that there was a little English devil whispering in my ear about, just like England was whispering to you, England was whispering to me about throwing dots my way to punish you, and wanting to see you go down and stuff. And I think that is part of why I decided to do this. I thought, well, England has very limited strength right now, obviously, and England's going to disappear because like one or both of us are going to eat him. But in the meantime, while England's alive, those couple of units England has could give me the extra strength that would be needed to successfully overcome Germany, especially knowing that Germany is not likely to keep Norway, that Germany will be reduced to like 4 centers plus Eddie, which Germany can't defend. If England decides to try to retake it and destroys like London instead of Clyde. So I have a feeling that there are good options. At this point, though, all of England's moves have been defensive against me, so I'm really going out on a limb here, trusting that England will actually try to work with me, and that I won't then have both you and England attacking me instead.
Yeah, I think that you played the diplomacy part of this very, very well. That's clear. Because I think all of those moves, tactically speaking, as you say, this is not a very strong stab. But I am not in great position regardless. And so I think it's definitely defensible. And this is a consequence of, why am I convoying my army in Holland, which is my defense, up to Norway to get piffed out of some, vendetta against Russia. But yeah, I mean, I in the end there, I mean, I do get Sweden here. So even though the army in Norway is getting disbanded, I am still getting Sweden out of it. And even the disband of the army in Norway is not so bad. It means I can rebuild it closer to home. Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting. I'd be very curious to know how the game would have gone had I moved north to Holland. This is clearly a turning point, I feel like, in the game. And it'd be interesting to know what would have happened if instead of going for Eddie, I just chosen to cover Holland.
I should note, another player wants to know why, forgetting about those possible moves, why you didn't prioritize stopping Russia instead of dotting England.
I'm doing a lot to stop Russia here, I think. No?
I agree. The only thing you're not doing is using North Sea to support Norway in place. I think that's what they probably mean, because you did do a good job of actually taking Sweden back, but looking at it, you wouldn't have succeeded in keeping Norway in any case.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's the decision here. I'm not keeping Norway here. And so I'm not getting both Norway and Sweden. That's not possible. So I think the moves I do are either a guarantee or close to guarantee to keep one of them, and Russia gets to choose.
Another interesting question I should note, and this I actually don't have an easy answer to myself. Why did you pull Munich to Kiel instead of pushing into Silesia?
Well, that's because if you do make a move against me, I don't want that army over in Silesia. So, and there's also the retreat of Russia to Baltic. That fleet can drop down into Baltic, and so that army needs to be there for defense overall.
Interesting. Then I feel as if Berlin would have been a better choice, but given that you're worried about me being in Holland, I guess I see it. All right. Anything else you wanted to note about this year?
Yeah, I don't know. What other?
I mean, England's moves are all still defensive against me. We're still making steady progress against England, except for the matter of me stabbing you.
The East is still an absolute mess.
It's a mess, but Russia is still just getting stronger. Russia's position is becoming more secure because Austria is remaining pretty weak. Austria is on the same number of dots, 3, that Austria was at the beginning of this year, except for just that Trieste is Italian now, and Austria gets Serbia back.
Yeah.
Serbia was going to be an easy thing for Austria to retake, in my view, in any case. So this is, hardly a victory, and I think, especially given the fact that Turkey manages to retain Greece, I think this is kind of a poor season for the Austro-Italian alliance.
I would tend to agree. I'm not sure. I'd have to probably look back at the spring and understand better more of the what possible tactics there are to do differently here. I mean, it was a constant source of frustration with Austria and Italy that I was not doing enough against Russia. So, for instance, here I think that they did want Austria very much wanted Munich to go to Silesia, because I needed to be helping against Russia. Which my response is, I'm doing a lot against Russia. I've completely given up my position, defensible position against you to be able to attack Russia. And Russia is disbanding this turn because I'm doing stuff against Russia. So I was pretty annoyed that I was being leveled, statements that I'm not doing enough to help against Russia here. But yeah, I mean, I think you're totally right. Even though Russia is disbanding one, their position in the south is getting stronger, is getting better, and so they can tolerate that loss of an army or of one of their units, because just overall, that fleet is out, is out of the Black Sea. Okay, fine, it's in East Coast, which is not great for Russia, but it's not in Black Sea anymore. So
Scandinavia is always kind of in flux, in my view. The way I see this map is that the Scandinavian centers are the easiest ones to take from somebody, whereas the centers in the Balkans are frequently easier to hold with a smaller number of units. And also, I mean, obviously there are some very famously defensible positions like Turkish homeland, English homeland, French homeland, but relatively speaking, I think that the least defensible region of the map is Scandinavia. So the fact that Russia is losing a little ground there isn't something super worrying, because it's stuff that Russia is likely to be able to win back.
Yeah, I think I think that that's very much true. If I'm Russia, I'm not worried about losing something in Scandinavia, because as you take it back. But the problem I always have with Scandinavia is that in order to do anything, you need to have units there. You need to have, and it's really easy to get tied down with lots of units fighting back and forth for one center in Scandinavia. And here I'm trying to use that to my advantage. I'm trying to keep Russia occupied. I'm trying to help, my central powers by doing that in the south. And usually when I'm playing, especially when I'm playing either Russia or England, I want to have an agreement about what we're doing with Scandinavia, and not waste time fighting about it. It's just a black hole of action of units, I feel.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, I do think you are the one who's, by the way, being the most effective at fighting Russia. I think that's inarguable. And it's also important because at this point, Russia is looking kind of like the leader. I mean, Russia's not really far ahead of you and me in terms of centers, if at all, but Russia's positioning is strong enough that Russia looks like the leader, because Russia's neighbors are much weaker relative to Russia, whereas you and I are right next to each other and are of similar strength, and I also have Italy to worry about. So you and I and Italy sort of counterbalance each other. Russia's next to Austria. Austria's half dead. And Russia's next to Turkey, who is dependent on Russia. So
yeah, actually, so this brings up a question I have for you, actually, and maybe in a season is maybe more when it comes to be, but after this season especially, I'm finding myself caught between two very big, strong powers in Russia and France. You're growing, and your position now is getting very strong. Russia's position is very strong. How much were you communicating with Russia, either up to this point or in these seasons now?
I would say not all that much. I mean, I think I did have some idea that maybe if Russia and the Juggernaut were successful, that the game could end with a 3-power draw between the three of us. But I don't shoot for that, so I wasn't really talking to them. And also, I found that when that happens, when France, Russia, and Turkey end up in a draw, it's usually just kind of something they fall into. It's not something they need to prearrange because they're in the opposite corners. So it's just natural.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my biggest concerns as here and as the game goes on is how much back and forth, how much of a relationship there is between you and Russia, and whether that how quickly that will spell the end for me if the two of you really start to work together.
Yeah, that's a fair worry, I think, and I do think in this case that maybe that wasn't what you needed to worry about, but
Probably not.
but we'll see what happens. Going to the build phase, we see that England does indeed get rid of London and keep the units necessary to knock you out of Edinburgh.
Not a surprise.
Yeah, because England has chosen to side with me because I attacked you rather than the reverse, and so England's now freely permitting me to possibly take London. And elsewhere, Italy gets yet another fleet, and Turkey gets a new army because I guess maybe Turkey's sick of fleets now. And
I mean, they've got 3 of them already, but I mean, the one on the East Coast, though, it's a sad fleet there. But
we're pretending that that's a fleet. That's really that thing really wants to be an army.
Badly wants to.
But nothing super interesting in the build phase, I don't think. You build armies because you know what's coming. It's a land invasion from me and possibly an attack from Russia, so the armies just make the most sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go to the spring. And there's a whole lot of red in the center of this map. Why don't you tell me what's going on there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was, so there's a lot of furious negotiations and trying to get help from Italy, and also, again, still dealing with the anger from Austria and Italy that I'm not doing anything against Russia. I had not originally been planning to bounce in Silesia. I'd been trying to make peace with Russia so I could deal with you. But Austria convinced me at the last second, I think it was this turn, convinced me at the last second that I really needed to move to Silesia. And so I did. And then keeping you out of Ruhr, otherwise my central position gets really bad there. Moving Skag to north, which was agreed with Russia, though I went ahead and hit Norway anyway, just in case there was some shenanigans there. I figured you would not likely be going for north. But
you're right.
Yeah,
because I have that unit next to London, and given that I know that Edinburgh will probably end up in Yorkshire, either because you move there or because you're forced to retreat there, I want to secure my gain of London that England just handed to me before something takes it back from me.
Yeah. And that definitely was part of my thinking here too. I mean, yeah, if you had, I wasn't going to be so upset if you did bounce me out of north, because then I have access on London. I'm keeping you out of London then. So it's a.
I'm hearing not hearing something, but I'm seeing like a question that I got about a peace treaty that involved you, Austria, Italy, and Turkey.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at this point, I'm desperately trying to make something different happen in the southeast, because Russia I think is still a threat, but I really can't do anything against Russia. And so somebody, there's repeatedly, asks from me to do stuff against Russia, which I'm not really able to afford to do if I need to defend completely against you. So I'm trying to work out any kind of détente between Turkey and particularly between Turkey and Italy. I feel like, despite your feelings about an IT alliance, I felt there was just a strong possibility for for at least IT working together somewhat throughout much of the early game here, and that was, it seemed like they were the two that I could imagine working the best together. But
I think that it could have been a very functional alliance in this particular game.
Yeah.
Especially if they could have maybe just destroyed one or two of the Turkish fleets and rebuilt them as armies.
Yep.
Because what they really needed was to just get rid of this weak Austria that's only on 3 centers at this point,
Yep.
and then sweep up into Russia and Germany and or France.
Mm-hmm.
Because as things stand, Italy's still on 5 centers, and it's 1904. This is not looking good for Italy, and Turkey isn't doing much better. I mean, Turkey has a precarious hold on 5th center that could collapse at any time. And so the only person benefiting from the chaos in the East, really, there are 2 people benefiting from this.
Austria and Russia, yeah. Austria is not dying, and Russia is still holding their power without much.
Okay, I guess that's a good point. All of that's a good point. That I wasn't even thinking of Austria.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was thinking Austria is not benefiting because Austria is so tiny and has been reduced to this state. But the third person who's benefiting is me.
Yeah. Oh no, you're benefiting hugely. Yeah. This is. Yeah. I think I lobbied Italy very, very hard to disband a G in here and not retreat it to Eastern Med, because I'm just 100%. You can't be fighting Turkey. You gotta be moving west. It's wide open over here. So this might have been. Was this the turn? This might have been the turn. I think yes. Actually, in spring of 04 here, I wanted Italy to move Tunis to North Africa, to move Ionian to Tunis, and Naples to Tyrrhenian Sea, and Aegean to Ionia. I told Italy, if you're going to move against France, which you've been telling me that you are looking for the right opportunity to, all game, this is your chance. France's fleets are all way north. They're moving further away from you. If you move hard now, you're not going to get dots immediately, but your position in the south is going to be very strong, and you will be getting centers. But it has to be with 2 fleets, because if you just move 1 fleet over, it will never do anything. And
yeah, I think you're right. I think this season, I move into the most vulnerable position versus Italy that I will ever be in for the entire game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially because Italy, by moving into the Tyrrhenian Sea right now, just sort of pokes me in the eye, like, just making sure you're paying attention to me. I might come and get you any moment.
I think at the time I called this a half measure, and because Tyrrhenian Sea here does nothing on its own. But I mean, if you have the army in Tunis is now sitting in North Africa and ready to be convoyed in wherever it needs to go, you have 2 fleets moving west, and your defensive position against Turkey is fine. Like Turkey's not going to be able to do anything against you for a long time. It felt like it was a missed opportunity for Italy to make a move against you. And I was crediting your strong diplomacy with Italy to keep them from doing that. But
to be honest, what Italy did here came completely out of the blue and also ticked me off.
Yeah.
That's the problem with half measures. You get 0% of the results. You get 100% of the annoyance.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Itally's already been making me do this thing, bouncing in Piedmont twice, and now Italy is in Tyrrhenian Sea, and I think I send Italy very direct messages about this, where I am critical.
Yeah.
Italy's positions and threaten.
You and me both, but the opposite ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's at this point that I think I was thinking, like, if I have an opportunity to crush Italy, I'm going to take it, like, as soon as I can. And the only problem is that I'm currently embroiled in a war with Germany. Maybe I need to make a peace with Germany even, because Italy is going to be such a nuisance. If this is the kind of thing Italy's going to keep on doing, and with me using half measures is not a good thing to do. with
Yeah.
me. I don't know if it works on anybody else. I think it probably doesn't usually work as well as a full measure, but you need to fully lower a heavy boot onto me.
Yeah.
Like if I'm an ant, you need to fully crush me, because if you do something like halfway like this, that's just annoying. It's not even halfway. It's just you just poke me.
Yeah, actually, if I'm Italy here, and this is the moveset I want to do, I probably tell you I'm moving to Tyrrhenian Sea, and I just say I'm moving to Tyrrhenian because I want my fleet out of Naples. It's not doing anything against you, but I don't want it sitting and blocking one of my home centers for later.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this other move, so it can't go to Ionian, and that's that. And as of course, no France ever wants to see an Italian fleet move into Tyrrhenian Sea, but on its own, Tyrrhenian Sea is bordering Italian centers, not French centers. So it's not the end of the world for Italy to say, look, I'm allowed to move something there if I need to, and if they're not moving anything else that way, then that's hopefully you trust France to be okay with it. And what's the worst? I mean, for your position here, what's the worst you're going to do? Like take 2 seasons to drop a fleet to Mao?
I think I would, in this situation, if Italy moved to Tyrrhenian Sea and told me, I might not do anything.
Yeah.
But my thinking, as soon as he did that, is I want to put a fleet in Marseille as soon as possible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Going to fall. We see that I do vacate Marseille. Italy moves that single fleet to Lyon.
Yeah.
And moves an army as well to Piedmont. So there is actually some strength there that is available to potentially try and force one of my home centers, which is not something I'm too happy about.
Yeah.
But on the other hand...
Again, how much better would that be if you now have a fleet in West and Lyon? You're Italy. It hurt to see this. But anyway, okay, that's water under the bridge.
It is a big missed opportunity. But on the other hand, Italy does get Greece because of keeping another fleet in the middle here. So...
it's true.
Ups and downs.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know what Italy could have done instead of that? Italy and Austria could have agreed that Italy would support Austria into Greece.
So this was one of the things this is probably the move that annoyed me more than any other move in this game. Why is Austria moving to Trieste here? You can't build. You're sitting in all of your home centers. You're taking a unit off the board from your ally. Like, why?
It's just a loss of it's a loss of ground. It's a loss of a unit that you guys would have had. It's another one of these like really pretty inefficient moves, I have to admit. And the only reason why Austria and Italy keep getting away with the kind of frankly slightly sloppy teamwork and tactics here is that Russia and Turkey are not working together consistently at all.
Yeah.
Because Turkey keeps changing his mind and attacking Russia and moving back and forth between fighting Italy and fighting Russia and fighting Austria. And that's also why Turkey is slowly losing ground. It's down to 4 centers now after this season. And why Russia doesn't get more involved in the anti-Austrian, anti-Italian fight is just Turkey being a more frustrating player than Italy is to me.
Yeah.
Because at least with Italy, like this follow through with the move to Tyrrhenian Sea is something that I kind of, I at least sort of grudgingly respect the fact that Italy had the guts to actually try to make a move on me, even though I think it's a little bit weak. Because, it's at least something. It's at least a real effort that I actually have to worry about and plan around. Whereas, what is Turkey even doing? Why are you going to Armenia again? You didn't work last time, and you don't have enough strength to force anything unless Russia just leaves Sevastopol unguarded. But even so, he'd take it right back. you don't have any muscle around there, and you're not friends with Austria or Italy.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably a really good question to Turkey in this game. I think the Turkish moves here are trying to work with, Austria and Italy in some anti-Russian moves, and so this is why Turkey, is doing this and is getting. I don't think Greece has agreed.
Right. I think Turkey expected support into Romania, probably.
I think he should, well, yeah, and if they were really working together, then that support should be there for sure. In fact, yeah, I think it is actually in this turn too, where there's a lot of frantic discussions going on at the deadline, and I feel like I made a press game mistake where I'm talking to and trying to coordinate moves with Austria, but it's in a one-on-one chat versus a group chat that we have been doing various coordination with Austria and Turkey together. And I hadn't really thought about how the conversation had moved to this one-on-one chat. But if Austria basically told me sort of nonsensical moves that they were doing this turn, which I knew couldn't possibly be the case, and which if I'd been really thinking clearly, would have tipped me off and would have helped. I would have been able to tell Turkey, hey, whatever agreement you have, it's not happening, and you should be doing something different. But it was I think that was this turn. It was a bit of a loss. So
yeah, on the bright side for you, you do retake Holland.
I do.
Yeah, you retake Holland and you destroy that army, and I think you were pretty successful in counterattacking, given that you didn't have any real ally against me except for Italy, who's only just barely getting into position now.
Yeah,
and
I do have. It's not an ally, but I do have Russia being not aggressive, because I don't have to keep Sweden here. Russia lets me keep Sweden here. So.
Yeah, Russia could easily have taken it and forced that unit back into Denmark, or you could have destroyed it. But it's you're fortunate in that Russia, and probably you're successful diplomatically in that you've gotten Russia to understand the necessity of not disrupting you while you hold me off. Because if I hadn't lost Holland here, I would have gotten 2 builds, and actually maybe I do have 2 builds because the unit in Holland is destroyed. But if I hadn't lost Holland here, I have another 2 centers from England choosing to fight you rather than fend me off any further. And I am beginning to be like the obvious board leader at that point. And this only slightly dampens that effect, but everyone should know at this point that your fight with me is the most important fight happening right now.
I do have Italy finally here is moving this way, which is some recognition of that, as you said. Not as strong as I would have hoped, but yeah, it is some real commitment from Italy's troops here. And that's also why the Austrian move from Serbia to Trieste is so frustrating, is because Italy can make use of that build. Like and as you say, in one of the places where it's just most needed on the board. And so it's really hard to see. It was just painful to see that happen. But everything you said is everything that was going into my diplomacy here. I don't want to be fighting Russia. I can't afford to be making an enemy with Russia. But I need Russia to feel pressure, and so I need the moves in the south. I need Turkey to be fighting Russia. I need the AI to. I need Italy to be moving west. So I need. There's a lot of moving pieces here that need to really happen. Yeah. And it's, if not for moving to Greece and some of these things, it's looking really good for me. Like if Austria supports, even if you allow the move to Greece and Austria just supports Black to Romania and takes and they do take Romania, that's looking to them. Russia clearly has problems elsewhere. It's not going to be a major threat to me. Turkey, Turkey will be doing what Turkey's doing. But.
Okay, going to the build phase though. I get 2 fleets because suddenly you are no longer the primary thing I am worried about. At least not the only thing I'm worried about, because Italy has made himself more than a nuisance. Now Italy is an actual legitimate threat.
It's a lot of fleets, though. You've got a lot of fleets.
Yeah, I have an armada. It's the French Armada, and I think I was trying to influence England to keep England's fleet as well, because I wanted to just sort of swarm over Scandinavia and Germany, and to make that kind of big invasion in the north, the easiest way is with a lot of fleets,
Yeah.
especially when you're France or England rather than Germany, because like how is that army even going to get anywhere I can use in England? Gosh, um, that's a little frustrating for me that England, like, I don't remember if England didn't see my request or didn't respond to it, or maybe I didn't like make it clear that I wanted England to keep the fleet. But in any case, for whatever reasons, that England's reduced to an army that has no utility, no value to me, and so
Yeah, I don't remember in my negotiations if I had tried to pitch England on keeping the army, because obviously keeping the army can only hurt you, or be annoying to you. It can't really hurt you, but it forces your fleets to be a bit more tied up.
yeah.
It's possible I offered England support if I could give it to London. Or, I don't remember exactly, but
Well, if so, good for you and good for England, because you two working together would make a lot of sense right now. Given the decision England's made to try and keep that army, I mean, and the fact that I haven't really been merciful toward England in exchange for England helping me. I've just walked into two English centers and reduced him to one, and that's the one that he was just barely able to take back from you.
yeah, I mean, yeah, there's no scenario where England's sticking around in this game with at your behest, so, or from your
From my perspective, that seemed like something that could have happened, and but it would require England to basically trust me and act like it's just a French unit, and then I would have probably let England have like Norway or something and given him a second fleet. But again, like, for somebody to become your janissary, they have to be patient and trusting, because if they're not willing to trust that you're not going to crush them under your heel as soon as their back is turned, they're not going to be an effective janissary.
Right.
And you also have to be willing to not crush them under your heel completely. Yeah, you can maybe like eat one dot off of them every so often, but otherwise they'll not be a very effective janissary again. So we see Italy gets another fleet and just becomes a little bit more of a threat to me. And Turkey destroys fleet Aegean Sea, which is
Eastern Med. Yeah.
What?
Eastern Med.
Oh, right, Eastern Med. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Eastern Med, which
Very Italian friendly. Yeah.
What?
It's very friendly to the Italians. So
Yeah. I think Turkey is just, I don't know, making some very questionable choices so far. But that's my view. Going to the spring, we see a lot of red, just all over red, all over the place. We have this gigantic bounce in the North Sea. I think there's 2 units supporting each side's moves, if I remember.
yeah. I have Holland supporting Yorkshire, and you have London supporting Norwegian. I've cut Norway. Norway was offering you support. So
And of course, you've been tapping Norway for years.
yeah, which is
Finally, it's a useful tap. And I mean, I imagine Russia might even have told you that Russia was going to support me into North Sea.
I don't think that they did. I think that caught me off guard. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the reason I've been doing it is because Sweden's not doing anything else useful, and so I'm just basically trying to keep Russia from, any shenanigans like this that I can.
Yeah.
At the potential annoyance of Russia, I'm sure. But
And we see that once again you and I clash in Roar, which you expected to get this time, and I am really trying hard to make headway somewhere. This game is just getting a little bit bogged down for me. It's not great, and I would like it to clear up some, but it's not really happening. I do get to go for Spain because I think I outguessed Italy here. I knew Italy wouldn't try to take Marseille because it was defensible, because I could defend it here. And so,
Yeah.
because I knew that, I went to protect Spain, and Italy thought that in addition to moving to Spain, Italy predicted that part, but in addition to moving to Spain, Italy thought I would try to do a self mounts in Marseille,
Mhm.
which I figured wasn't necessary because Italy might take it. If Italy takes it, Italy has one unit there and one unit to support it, and I will have 3 units next to Marseille in the fall.
Right.
So I don't need to worry about protecting it. And Italy's move is just like an attempt to prevent me from keeping Marseille opening for another potential build again. So I'm not going to fall for that. But otherwise, I approve of the fact that Italy is deploying Naples into combat now. It's perhaps a little late. It won't arrive to be in a helpful place until the end of the year. But
Yeah, I think, yeah, Italy, there's a number of discussions about this. I think Italy very much wanted me to hit Burgundy so that they would go for Marseille. I said that I wasn't going to do that because I didn't think that that would possibly work. And yeah, I mean, it would have worked had they gone for Marseille here. But as you said, you're going to be able to take it back out. I had been suggesting for Italy to move to Spain to keep you from moving there, which I can't remember exactly why I thought that would be better, but I thought that it'd be better to keep you more bottled up. And Marseille has 2 units around that fleet in Marseille has two units around it, so it's a bit better to spread things out if you can, I think.
mm-hmm.
But okay, I don't remember why I was suggesting to try to move to Spain. But
at this point, I'm also trying to talk Italy down, and that's why I moved Brest to the Channel instead of to Mid-Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah,
Telling Italy, listen, you should know you're not going to win the fight. I will bring you to a standstill. I'm trying to convince Italy, and I'm not entirely bluffing either. I'm trying to convince Italy that the juice is not worth the squeeze here. I am a tough customer. I know my tactics. I'm going to fight. Italy might gain 1 center off me.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to tell them. And I tell them, I don't want to fight you. I never picked a fight with you. I don't know why you tried to move west. It's not going to succeed. You're going to have to outthink me here, and I think my defenses will be solid.
I think that's such a strong diplomatic and strategic move on your part here. I love being able to do that, to just basically hold up, defend, convince somebody you're not getting anything. This is not where you want to go. Like, I'm not going to hurt you, but you really should be turning around and doing something else. It's one of my favorite things to do as Turkey, playing as Turkey. You kind of often you have to do that as Turkey. That's what ends up happening a lot. But I really enjoy that. Good, if you can combine good tactics and defense and just annoy somebody with lack of progress, it can really pay dividends. And your move to English Channel here is really smart for that, because you're telling Italy that you're not a threat. You're not going to hurt Italy, and that's really smart.
Thank you. And you, meanwhile, are doing an excellent job of
I'm doing
every single thing I do against you, to the point where it would be much more difficult to kill you, and perhaps more dangerous to kill you than to try and keep you alive in some form or another. And I'm still not giving up on my fight with you exactly, but as Italy continues to be more involved with my southern half, I'm seriously considering trying to just make peace with you, pull back, fight Italy, because Italy is apparently really interested in this fight happening. So we're going to see how the diplomacy there shakes out. Anything interesting happening in the eastern side, you think?
Yeah, I mean, you see Turkey kind of continuing with the anti-Russian moves, despite what happened with Austria and Italy in the season before, which I can't remember all of the diplomacy and various things going on at the time, but I'm it's a curious question as to what was guiding that. Again, I feel like, I know that Turkey felt like he had no friends for much of the game, and so that, in that sense, I can understand some of the blowing in the wind back and forth. But it's he's doing a supported attack on Greece, which is not, is maybe more keeping Italy honest rather than really expecting to work. But this move of the army to Armenia is certainly interesting.
Yeah.
But then you have Austria, pushing with support, pushing the army into Serbia, which can't be great news for Turkey.
No, it's not friendly at all. And like I could sort of understand it if they had a plan to attack Romania together, and Austria wasn't supporting the move to Serbia, but was trying to take Galicia this season or something.
Yep.
And I feel like if the three of them really work together, Russia's southern position isn't all that strong. They should be able to take Romania and Sevastopol pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And the problem is just that like Austria and Italy are never ever going to actually try to work with Turkey.
Yep.
More importantly, Austria isn't going to try to work with Turkey right now, because Italy can't do anything to help.
Yeah, that's right.
Unfortunate. Going to the fall, we see that Italy makes the full pull back away from me. Thank goodness for me, as well as to some extent for Italy. And I trick England into offing himself. England is. I tell England that I need to cut support that's going to come from Yorkshire for a move to North Sea, something like that. And I may have even expected you to actually do that, but really my reason was just that I'm going to support England moving into Yorkshire because that is my best way of getting England out of Edinburgh without having England retreat into Liverpool. So I can finally get that last English dot, eliminate the factor of having to negotiate with a one-dot power that is not like doing everything I say, doesn't have a fleet, is not very useful to me going forward, it looks like. And so that is my great, that is my, one of my, I feel like I have two great diplomatic successes this year, yay me. And one of them is that Italy goes into full retreat mode and moves everything back away from me. And the other is England accidentally kills himself.
Yeah. No, this is a very good year for you. Especially, I don't know what I'm thinking in the tactics here. There's some, I think, some suboptimal tactics here. I'm sure I had reasons that I convinced myself for it, but okay. I lose Sweden, which is, it's whenever Russia wants it, Russia's going to do it. They pulled the trigger on it this year. Certainly I'm not, losing Yorkshire is not the end of the world for me. Like that was always going to happen. I guess I expected you to hit Holland, so I wanted Holland to be moving and covering Holland with Kiel, which means I can't support Ruhr, which, there's all of these things, but
you weren't expecting me to do the same thing I did twice in a row.
I was not expecting you to do the same thing twice. That's next time I'll be on the ready.
But nothing like.
I'm very I'm obviously incredibly disheartened by the Italian moves here. I'm a little annoyed by the Austrian move to Bohemia, though I figure that's designed to be somewhat anti-Russian, but I'm not really sure. Still not sure why you do that when Russia's in Galicia, but okay. But you're getting a build, I guess, so it's not so bad.
I think Austria's moves here are generally just mistakes. All of Austria's moves, but from my perspective, the Austrian strategy for the last several years has been a mistake. I think Austria should have started working with Turkey. But by taking Bulgaria, Austria is probably foreclosing any future opportunity to work with Turkey in favor of being under Russia's shadow for the rest of the game.
Yeah, no, after this turn, both Turkey and I, we're talking and we're just like, all right, we're done. I mean, this is, for both of us, it just felt like that's it. AI doesn't want to actually, work against the two big powers. Okay, I guess that's how it is. Like, what are we supposed to do? We had some nice, honest conversations. It was nice to hear, to be able to talk to somebody in the same boat. So,
in fairness to Italy, no matter what Italy did this season, Italy was not going to successfully take anything from me. And so I kind of understand that Italy might want to give up, because if Italy had tried to make a supported move on Marseille, all that would have happened was Marseille would be open for a fleet build, and then I'm going to start trying to retaliate.
yeah.
So
I agree. I think the thing, I can't fault Italy too much, I guess, but, you know, you're the threat, not Turkey. And I guess I would feel like it would still be worth moving towards the threat. Now, supported move into Marseille, I probably wouldn't have bothered. I'd probably support into West and be moving the fleets over, because all of your fleets are still north. And especially if Italy allows you to move into Marseille, then you're also not going to have a fleet build in Marseille either to back it up. So
yeah,
there's still, it's not looking great for Italy, but in terms of getting centers, but at least they're locking things down and, you know, potentially making some diplomatic moves happen. But
in truth, a big part of me was hoping Italy would try to make a supported move into Marseille. That's why I did it. Otherwise, I would have just self-bounced there and kept it open.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Italy making a big decision here, really, and causing me to heave a big sigh of relief. Austria going to Bohemia, I don't really get it at all, and I think Austria, by basically, oh, you heard what I thought about that.
Yeah.
Let's go to the build phase.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, I finally get another army, because I didn't really have enough of those. I can't build a fleet in Marseille, and even if I could, right now I wouldn't necessarily want to, because Italy is being, Italy's
moved away. Yeah.
Italy's making the right noises now of reconciliation and friendship, and I changed my mind and all that stuff, all that good stuff. Meanwhile, Russia builds a fleet in the north coast of St. Pete. So
yeah,
I take this as a very anti-French gesture right now, because it is. And I start to see Russia as the new enemy, especially because Russia also took Sweden from you in order to get that build. So Russia now has a bunch of juicy dots in the north that I want. And not just 2, it's 3. And Russia's not going to have too secure of a hold on them with only 2 fleets anyway. So that should be my next target. I think it's around this time that you and I start talking about the possibility of you being a potential janissary.
Absolutely. That's exactly when this happened. I mean, and that was in part, I was just super disheartened about Italy's moves, but also, yeah, that fleet north coast is a clear signal from Russia. And that opens up that possibility to basically tell you, all right, I can't, I don't have a defensible position against you in the long run. And if you're pushing hard in on me, you're going to whittle me down before Russia's really going to be able to move into a position to help. That was what I felt, at least. And so I thought my best path for surviving the game was to offer to basically be your janissary and to make moves east.
Yeah. And for the record, I completely, wholeheartedly meant it. I really wanted you to be my front line against Russia, and to be like a tank and crush Russia, so that then I would be the only great power left of any size, and I could, mop up from there and win the game. Because I think at this point, with your 4 armies and my additional 4 armies, you and I are the strongest force if we actually join forces. That's in right. Central Europe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's incontestable.
Yeah.
So it's my intention to actually do this. I do take Holland, but
yeah, I think that was. I mean, I knew you were going to do that. That was agreed. So
yeah,
it was.
Yeah. But it's my intention to just keep you. It's my intention to keep you to a manageable size, but not to reduce you to like less than 4 centers.
Yep.
at any point. So I think that it could have worked. We're going to see what happens. Interestingly, despite such reassuring words to me, Italy does not move out of Tyrrhenian Sea, which I'm not real happy about, because that was how his last attack started, was him moving into Tyrrhenian Sea.
And he sticks around in Tuscany too, which is interesting.
Yeah, I didn't much care about that. I didn't think that that was an especially effective place to be relative to other, the option of Venice,
Yeah.
or Piedmont. So I didn't really take any offense to him being in Tuscany, and I didn't complain about that. Don't want to complain too much about things that are not actually dangerous to me. But Tyrrhenian Sea and Tuscany together is an annoying thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll always have to have a unit or two on standby. Russia is unsuccessful in all of Russia's moves in the north, but in the south, owing to the lack of anti-Russian coordination of any kind, Russia's moves continue to make forward progress against Turkey by taking the Black Sea, and Russia vacates Galicia, showing that Austria is favored by Russia now. Which is good for Austria, I guess.
This was an interesting. There were some interesting discussions either here in the spring or the fall. I guess maybe in the fall, but after these moves with Austria, about Austria was very upset that I moved to Silesia.
Did Austria tell you that they were moving to Silesia?
I don't recall them telling me they were moving to Silesia, but they very well might have. I said I was just defending against you. I wasn't telling anybody that I was becoming your janissary and making these moves. So that definitely came as a surprise.
Yes.
I don't think I knew that Austria was going to Silesia. So, but Austria was very upset about it and but I understand why Austria was maybe upset, but the diplomacy back to me was, well, I'm trying to help you by fighting Russia. It's like, I don't think you realize that the big French thing behind me is the real problem and what I would need help from. So okay, yeah,
yeah. So fall,
yeah.
you and Austria again fighting over Silesia.
Yeah, I don't think I got it clear. I don't know if this was arranged between Austria and Russia for this bounce, or
I think it was supposed to be successful.
Okay.
Probably.
I guess you're probably right. So that it's Russia helping Austria to set up against me, because you have the follow-up moves to Tyrolia and Bohemia.
Exactly.
Which is really Austria helping me fight Russia for sure.
I think Austria is making a real mistake here by trying to fight you when the East is not at all settled, and when Russia is this big power on one side and Italy is a big power on another side relative to Austria. I mean, Italy's not a big power, but Italy's big enough to help Russia kill Austria.
Yeah, if I'm Austria in this position, I'm very worried about an IR. Well, and in fact, as Germany, I was going to Russia and Italy at some point, I guess after these moves, and basically saying the two of you need to shape it up and get Austria out, and I'll help you, and turn back and fight against France again. But that's what you guys have to do. And I mean, if I'm Austria, I'd be very worried about that, because at best you get Munich, but you're not holding it. So it doesn't. I don't quite understand the ideas here.
Yeah, a southern power like Austria going from Munich before Austria's achieved any security in their homeland is like, it's like if Germany goes for Vienna when the Western Triangle isn't settled yet. Mm-hmm. It's not it's really dangerous, and it's not likely to lead to long-term success, I think. Here, I'm in a bit of trouble in the sense that even though I'm doing really well at repositioning myself, I don't have a build coming because I decided not to keep Holland.
Walk out of Holland.
Yeah, I think that was a mistake. And
that probably was a mistake for you to do. I'm very glad you did it. I lobbied pretty hard for it. Actually, I don't know if I lobbied too hard for it because I didn't want to worry you, but I lobbied for it. That's for sure.
I should have kept it because I walked out to make you happy, and I should have kept it because then my attack on Italy would have been much more effective. Because I decide that if Italy's not vacating Tyrrhenian Sea, like this is the last straw, we must go to war, and I move everything in that's not moving toward Russia toward Italy, and I have a large enough naval presence and amphibious force that I can actually wage this war with both of them without immediately losing to either of them. So that's something.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I also think I outsmarted Italy a bit here because even though Italy made the best moves Italy could in this situation, or at least pretty good moves, I think the fact that I knew that Italy would go for Westmed helped me out because I made the optimal moves to be able to defend Spain and potentially build a fleet in Marseille, and I have a unit in Mid-Atlantic. So
yeah, your moves here are really strong. I mean, there would be a reaction, I think, among a lot of French players to be like, I cannot have an Italian fleet in West Med. That I got to bounce it out. But what you've done here, I mean, your defensive position is very, very strong. That fleet in West Med is not going to be able to do anything against you. And as you said, yeah, you've opened up Marseille for a build, and so if you'd stayed in Holland, like you're getting another fleet down there, or getting something to defend there, and it's very, very strong for you.
Yeah, I should have thought like it's actually necessary for me to have a build right now because I do need that. And I knew I wasn't getting one from Russia because my moves were all positioning moves up there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I managed to convince you that, my units, I think the key thing was getting a fleet. The thing I had tactically working for me is that I was the only way you were going to have a fleet in the Baltic on the inside, which would make dismantling Russia go so much faster. And that's what I could keep arguing to you as to why I was very useful, and also why it was also useful to not take centers from me, because it was hard to see how, if you took a center from me, how I wouldn't have to disband that fleet.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. And
meanwhile, yeah, Turkey down to 1 now. That's
yep. Going to the builds, we see very little happens. Only Russia has a build because
with an Italian build in Rome too.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that completely. It is a fleet build. It's what you'd expect. And now that Turkey's gone, the good thing about having gone and fought Turkey and eliminated Turkey alongside Russia and Austria is that Italy can now really focus on me.
Yeah.
Which means that we are going to be in a state of war for the rest of the game because Italy will not be able to beat me. Yeah. And if I just get another fleet build, I'll be pretty much invulnerable. So Italy's maybe making a mistake by focusing on fleets and fighting me rather than building an army and fighting Austria. But Italy's already made the moves that kind of commit Italy to this course.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be very interesting to talk to Italy and Russia here as to why are you keeping Austria around? What is Austria doing for you in this situation? I mean, and it's really mostly to Italy because Russia, I think, would clearly want to take Austria if they could. But yeah, it's not. Russia's not going to be able to hurt you in the long run. There's just dots waiting for you from Austria that you can use to your advantage.
Yeah, I think the problem is again that Italy just feels the most threatened by me.
Yeah.
And Austria has been, I guess, a completely loyal ally. I think that they've been totally able to trust each other. And some people will prefer not to ever give that up if they can. And Italy's like a pretty shrewd, cautious kind of player, I feel like.
Yeah.
So that explains that to me, is that it's better to have a trustworthy ally around than to take the plunge and try to form a new alliance with Russia in exchange for more power. So
yeah, that's fair enough.
It's a safer approach. I don't really like that approach, but
you're guaranteeing that you'll make it into the draw. You're not going to be eliminated if you don't stab Austria, because Austria is not going to do anything to you.
Yeah.
And so you're gonna be fine. You're guaranteeing that you're also not
ever.
You're never going to be the dominant power.
Right. You're never going to solo this way. Spring, we see that, I don't know, Austria and Italy waste another couple of moves by bouncing in Venice in the middle of Italy having a fight with me.
Yeah.
So that's cool because I actually am having some difficulties now because the power I thought was my Janissary still, even though the last season's moves should have convinced me I was being played a little bit.
You didn't do anything wrong, and I was honestly, I was very honest too. And when I said I was doing that, I was honest that that was my intention to kind of follow through and do it. Because again, like we had worked really well together in the beginning. I had very much appreciated your both tactical skill and your diplomatic skill. But it's just not in my nature to Janissary. I saw a chance, and I felt like, wow, I gotta fight for my homeland again. And it was.
I wasn't going to take anything from you except for Holland, and you were going to get Sweden at the same time.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that I thought you were going to somehow, renege on, being a good dominant power, and that I would somehow be eliminated. I thought there was a move here that I thought could shake up the board a little bit. I'm still sitting on 5 centers. I'm not a 1 or 2 center power. I still have something to say about how things go. And I was very much hoping for Russia and Italy to be able to kind of work together. I was going to have Russia focusing on, not armies against me, and instead being able to push down into Austria, which I thought would be a better move for Russia. Instead, I can understand why Russia felt the need to defend and want to see me move west before moving south. But support to Livonia is not really necessary.
Yeah,
there's a lost tempo for trying to get into Galicia.
There's a lot of time. I don't know when it starts. I don't recall exactly because I didn't look at it to prepare for this chat. But there's a lot of time I spend in the latter part of the game trying to convince Russia, Austria, and Italy, one of them to just turn on one of the others, or 2 of them to turn on one of the others, because the fact that they're at peace with each other and also not successfully doing anything to you or me is just making this game become really stagnant.
Yeah.
There's no good reason for them not to settle the fight that they have going on.
Yeah.
I don't think. Because Italy's not going to make any successful advances against me, nor is Italy really holding me back very much yet. Italy loses Westmed right now, although Italy does retreat to Lyon, which is still a pretty good position. But this is not a place. They're not in a good place to actually make any advances in the West. So I'm just not sure why they didn't let you and I fight, and maybe Russia helped some in the north. And then Russia and Italy could devour Austria, or Austria could backstab Italy, or something.
Yeah.
Italy can't really stab Russia, but that's sort of possible though too. If Italy and Austria are that closely bonded, they could have worked together and gotten rid of Russia, because Russia's strong in the south now, but not too strong.
Yeah, you have Aegean could be moving into Caen. You could be threatening, with the fleet of Black. There's moves there that can be done. But
I respect the loyalty that sort of shows itself between Austria and Italy for a lot of this time, because it shows patience on both their part. But I do wonder if it wasn't just a little more drawn out than would have made sense for them. And not dealing with Russia at any point for almost the entire game was just something that, in retrospect, it's pretty frustrating, because Russia became a preeminent power in part by the indifference or friendship of Russia's neighbors, who should have been worried about it.
Yeah.
But your move here against me is, it's not a bad move. As far as powers that seemed to be dying or dead, resurrecting themselves go, it's not bad. It's giving me something to think about.
Yeah, your position, especially your position with the fleet and Skag north, and I mean it's just so strong. So it's hard to see how a lot comes of it from me doing this here. But I mean, kicking you out of Ruhr is definitely much stronger for my defensive position. And yeah, now I'm starting to make you think and make you feel like you at least have to defend, to keep me from getting into your homeland, which is a nice feeling.
It's the combination of you, Russia, and Italy attacking me now.
Yeah,
it's a little bit intimidating, actually. I'm starting to think, there's a decent chance I could actually lose some ground here, and maybe I lose this thing, because the most important centers to me, the most important spaces, are my most vulnerable spaces right now.
Yeah.
You could get you're in Ruhr. You could get Burgundy. You could get Belgium. Russia maybe could get North Sea.
Yeah.
If any of those things fall, I'm just fighting a defensive war for the rest of the game until I lose, probably. Or until, like, Russia throws me a lifeline, or Italy throws me a lifeline, or you throw me a lifeline. Somebody throws me a lifeline by changing sides again. But let's see what the fall brings. And in the fall, you try to go for North Sea, and you support yourself holding in Munich, and you try to bounce Holland, and you make some wrong guesses this time. And I have a question from another player about your decisions here. I'm just going to read it verbatim. Germany, why are you the way you are?
I wouldn't be any other way. I'm curious as to what that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not making. There's definitely some, as you say, wrong guesses, and maybe even some tactical mistakes here. I don't remember exactly why I'm not supporting into Holland here.
I mean, I think the mistake you've made here is not really a tactical mistake. I think it's a diplomatic one, and that's that now all of your neighbors hate you. All of your neighbors want to see you dead. Like,
yeah,
it's nothing personal. It's just that you at one point irked each one of us. And well, in the case of Russia, I think it's actually just greed. Russia just wants. I offer Russia support into Denmark, and Russia says, "Thank you, please."
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I mean, I certainly I can see how I've irked everybody. I'm not sure why Austria hates me so much, but I feel like that's undeserved. But okay.
Well, I do kind of agree with you. Austria's. I don't really get it, but I think Austria feels like you didn't do enough about me, and also you didn't do enough about Russia. And I never mind the fact that Russia and I have both been, like, off and on attacking you.
Yeah.
Like, it made it quite difficult for you to do anything about either of us.
Yeah, I think. I think there is some history there which I just don't quite understand from the game. But yeah, this is not a good turn for me, obviously. I mean, even if I do manage to keep Holland, which is maybe the one mistake that one can see here, like, I'm getting kicked out of Denmark. I've got two, even after I've moved to clearly, make a push against you, I now have Russian armies coming at my doorstep. I have Austria accepting support from you into Munich. Like, I mean, it's just as you said, at this point, it's all of my neighbors decide they want me out of the game. And there's I won't say it's not deserved, but there's not much I can do at this point with that.
Yeah. It's unfortunate your death warrant's been signed. Yeah. And meanwhile, I feel really good about this season for the most part, because even though I wanted you out of Munich and I wanted the attack on Germany to be even more devastating than it was, I feel good about the fact that you lost Holland to me, you lost Denmark to Russia. I don't really feel great about handing Russia another dot, but I'm still figuring, because it's all Scandinavia. Scandinavia can be easily taken back if you have a bunch of fleets. I will always have more fleets available than Russia, or at least as many as Russia, so I think I'm probably eventually going to get that stuff back. So I don't mind lending him a dot that will then become French. But, that's not how this game's going to end. We shall see. Winter, build phase, I get an army, which would probably mystify a lot of people who might not be aware of what the positioning really kind of is right now with regard to my units. But I think you knew, and you kind of explained it, or somebody explained it, I think. Maybe it was you, that to Italy, that like no matter how long Italy tries to hammer at me now, my position, like I just need to make one or two moves now, and my position will be unbreakable.
Yeah.
So, like I am starting to feel very confident and secure in the south, at least. This is also when I'm starting to have less time for the game, I think, but I am starting to feel pretty confident in my position in my position in the south, and I just need to make sure that I don't let anyone into the North Sea, because that's my big point of vulnerability now that you're becoming less powerful, is that Russia might sneak in there. I'm very glad you destroyed your fleet in Helgoland and your army in war, especially your fleet in Helgoland.
At this point, if I had felt any better about Russia or Austria, I would be very happy to keep the fleet in Helgoland because it's much more fun. But at this point, especially with the moves of the last turn, I think my disbands here are basically, in some sense conceding that you've played a great game, France. I'm not bugging you. Like I'm just going to sit and defend, and that'll be the end of it.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, everyone surrounded you with just these forces of destruction that are just arrayed to end you. For some reason, Russia decides to build an army in St. Pete now.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
He's done this before, and it's just armies in St. Pete they're less useful than gills on a bird. I don't know what's going on there, but.
An army in St. Pete makes sense if you're gonna, move it to Finland and then move it to Norway, which is what you do in O2, but or support something to Norway. But beyond that, I don't know what you really get from that here. Whereas you could build something in Sev, you could, that would maybe make Austria mad, but it's
Yeah. Going to the spring 1908.
The glorious finish to me.
Oh my gosh. Like what happened to your homeland? It looks sort of like a dead person smiley face thing.
I was actually a bit shocked by this. You attacking me makes sense. Your position to attack me totally makes sense, and it's something that if you're going for a solo or something, like that's exactly what you need to do. Russia helping you into Kiel doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's somewhat defensible because they're dropping the fleet into Baltic, and so it's not a terrible thing for them to be able to take back.
Yeah.
And getting into Berlin is nice. But it's still hard. It's still I feel like hard for them to. It's hard for them to beat you to my centers and to be able to then do it in a way that holds. So I was a little confused as to why, Russia decided to go in for this. Austria taking Munich, you're never holding that. You're never keeping that. Why are you doing that? Why are you wasting units there too when you're also supporting yourself into Galicia?
I will say the interesting thing here is that the Austrian diplomatic strength has been such that it's kept Austria alive all this time. Maybe Austria is relying on the power of words to keep Austria in possession of Munich.
That could be the case. That could be.
Austria doesn't have the troops.
Yeah. Maybe, I can maybe see a reason for it if you're not intending to hold Munich and you're just going to swing, you're just going to then swing Munich into Silesia with support from Bohemia and a windmill. You could definitely do something like that, but I'm not sure why it's beneficial for you to get rid of me as Austria, because I don't think I'm that annoying, and I'm never going to hurt you. So like, I'm never going to hurt you. But
Very gentle.
yeah.
I think at this point, as Austria, maybe Austria's thinking like, oh, it's just a free dot, because at this point, you just get rid of Germany. It's a free dot. Maybe we draw at this point.
Yeah.
And
yeah, if you're playing through to the draw, I mean that can also be part of that too. So.
Austria is definitely not getting a solo now, unless like the game starts going really radically differently than it has been, because Austria needs to more than triple in size now to get to the solo, and I don't know if I see it. I think Italy is a much stronger contender, to be honest, at this point, because Italy's actually pretty strong and able to fend me off. Just needs a little help in order to be able to defeat Austria. Whereas Austria to defeat Italy requires Italy to keep Italy's back turned and Russia to leave Austria alone, and me not to do anything solo-y while Austria is doing that.
Yeah.
So it's not a great position that Austria is in. Now that you're gone from here, I think Austria is the sick man of Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, and yeah, I don't want to give away the ending before we get to it, but there's a lot of potential play left in this game.
I agree, and you see that I pull back from Norwegian Sea to North Atlantic, and I pull Skagerrak into North Sea. That's all diplomacy with Russia. I'm trying to make peace with Russia so that Russia and I can actually have a stable border while Russia goes and fights Austria, and I perhaps help, perhaps actually advance against Italy, although I can see it's very unlikely unless Italy also pulls back. But at least we can eliminate Austria from this draw, and then we can end the game.
Right.
But what actually happens is that Russia, doesn't really make any successful anti-Austrian moves here. Russia instead loses Romania to Austria right now, and supports Italy into Bulgaria, which is interesting. And Italy also takes Trieste, but Italy's also still moving against me. And now Austria's like talking about throwing Austrian centers to Russia, which isn't really much of a threat, because Austria, all four of them, I mean, that would actually make Russia stronger in a meaningful way, but it's not a very powerful threat because it wouldn't give Russia the solo, and Austria can't throw all of Austria's centers to Russia because Serbia is beyond Austria's control to throw to someone. Italy can force it.
Yeah.
Munich is something I can force, most likely, or at least prevent Russia from taking. So it's kind of a hollow threat, but life is a little bit in the way right now. And even though I do not think I'm going to lose this game, and I think that if I were to lose, it would be because Russia solos, not for anything else. But I don't think that was going to happen, because I think Italy was going to defend well, and I think I was going to defend well. And maybe even we were going to push Russia back, and maybe I could solo or something, but life was going on. My new job, I didn't have as much time as I might have liked, and so this game ends here. And it ends on a note that must feel a little sad for you, because it ends right after we eliminate.
Right. I think that was my parting message: was please don't draw after this. No, I can't. I mean, I can't fault. Yeah, I mean, if I looking at the board here, I think both you, Italy, and Russia, obviously, I think have really potentially strong positions. I can't fault you for taking the draw. I think that you're not going anywhere, but it's going to be a lot of diplomatic work to make it turn around. And if other people want to draw, you're not going to have luck in doing that. You obviously have the diplomatic skill to be able to do it if people are actually willing. But yeah, I mean, Russia, I think, has a lot to play for here tactically.
Yeah.
And between Russia and Italy, they potentially have a lot that they could go for. But
Russia wanted the draw here, though. Russia was the one pushing it. It was my understanding, and so I think that also would have put me at a diplomatic disadvantage a little bit, because if Russia wants the draw and Italy kind of wanted to draw with them, and also thought that Austria deserves to be in the draw, then suddenly I become the world's enemy.
That's right. Yeah.
There was already a fair bit of that going on. If it's really focused on me, I could actually lose significant ground, enough to maybe even give Russia a shot at solo. Although I still think it's most likely that that was never going to happen. But it could have. It was possible for sure.
Yeah.
So it was a good game. I had fun. And the important thing is that we all learned something. What did you learn?
What did I learn? Well, there's a lot of. I think there's a few key things I think that that I could have done better. I think the things I regret the most were not communicating more with England after the original stab, and establishing a better relationship with England. I don't even know if that would have changed the game that much, but I actually really enjoyed talking to England for some of the periods that I did, and and I think that it might have made a difference in somehow the diplomacy of the North and the West continued to go. And then I definitely feel like I overreacted to the Russian stab, which exposed myself to you to take Holland on that turn. And that after that, my position, it completely changed the game in my position from there. I'm 100% on defense at that point. And I didn't really need, I didn't need to necessarily make that move, and I could have also covered against a potential stab from you. And that's, I probably was definitely too trusting in that moment. I knew I was putting myself in a bad position, and I was trusting that you wouldn't somehow take advantage of that. But of course, you kind of have to. I put myself in a position where it was really hard for you to not do that.
My thanks go out to those named on the screen at this time for their assistance in making this channel and its growth possible. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it entertaining. Till next time, the Lord of Man, out.